What's up guys, welcome back to some more Scrap Mechanic. Today I'm going to be showing you my very first science experiment. This experiment is incredibly dangerous to build, so definitely don't do it at home, don't try this at home. I can't believe that the school actually let children do this sort of thing. Except that they didn't actually let children do something dangerous, they just gave a very general assignment of do a science experiment, whatever you want to come up with, and we'll give you a grade based on how good it is. I don't even know how they graded it, but they put everyone into pairs. So the kid that I was paired up with, I went up to him and I said, "What do you want to do? I have no idea what we're doing." I was also a pretty dumb kid, so I really didn't have any idea of what we were doing. And the other kid pretty much just said, "Don't worry, I have an idea and I'm going to be doing everything. You don't even have to do anything." And I was totally for that. I was 100% totally on board with being carried by this other kid. Except that when I look back on it, I don't think that this kid even did his own science experiment either. I think like a lot of other kids, they just got their parents to make something for them, and then they were the ones that presented it. So anyway, onto the experiment, and to show you exactly why it's so dangerous. What I built in Scrap Mechanic is this recreation of the science experiment. It's an electric hot dog cooker. So let's go ahead and show you what it's like. Basically, the kid that I was with, they built a large wooden box. It wasn't actually that large, it was just a wooden box. Then they took a power cord from like a lamp or something, there wasn't any grounding or anything, with a switch on it, and it was just cut off at the ends. Then they attached those ends on some metal bracing, I don't know what it's actually called, and they screwed in that metal bracing into the sides of the wooden box about 6 times. So on the inside, there's these protruding spikes that, well, that's intended for you to connect a hot dog for you to cook. And then you can probably see why it's very dangerous. Just exposed wire that you connect straight into the wall. That's probably one of the most dangerous things. And we did this as children. Do you understand? Like, they brought this into the class, and here is an example of a hot dog. It's just a big old hot dog. Raw and ready to be cooked. So what you would do is, you would just take the hot dog, the raw, uncooked hot dogs, and you'd have to make sure the machine is off first, because, I mean, it's even more dangerous to leave it on. And then you connect it to the spikes on either side. Doesn't really matter which ones, just connect it into the spikes somewhere. And you can put any number of hot dogs. Then, with the machine plugged into the wall, you just flick the switch, and the electrical resistance of the hot dogs is what actually cooks it. Look at that, after a while you get a fully cooked hot dog. Of course, turn off the machine, and then you can take off the hot dog to munch on it. And that's what it's so dangerous. That's exactly what we did as children. Like, this is ridiculous. So there you can see the comparison between a raw hot dog and a cooked hot dog. And this is absolutely insane. Thinking back on it, this was one of the most dangerous things. I guess you don't really realize how dangerous it is when you're a kid, but like looking back on it, I can't believe this was actually an acceptable thing. And we got a good grade on it too, even though I didn't do anything. So you probably can just see how it works. We're just electrifying hot dogs in between the spikes that are in the wooden box. The fact that all of this like metal was exposed on the outside and you had to like load in the hot dogs manually and like take them out manually, there was a high chance that some kid forgot the switch that was on, or loaded in the hot dogs while the machine was like plugged in. Like there's so many things that could have gone wrong. The fact that I'm even alive today, it's so ridiculous. So it should go without saying, definitely don't try this sort of thing at home. Even your parents would probably tell you, like, I'm not an electrician, we probably shouldn't be doing this. That's so ridiculous. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you guys my very first science experiment that I wasn't even a part of. I ate so many hot dogs that day, I really didn't know what was going on. I was really a dumb kid, but hey, I'm very thankful for that other kid for basically doing the entire project, even though I don't think that he actually did anything, and it was just his parents that built it. But he did pretty much do the entire presentation, and he definitely tried to sound all scientific, like the electrical resistance of the hot dogs is what cooks them. When really, it's really, we all know what's happening here. It's just the hot dogs getting electrified until they are nice and warm and cooked and sometimes even burnt. So with fewer hot dogs, they definitely cook a little bit faster, but you could cook up to 6 hot dogs at a time. Zap. Zap. Blah, 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 I'm electrocuted. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so to show you how this works, I cut open a hole in the wall of the wooden box. Behind each of these screws or metal pegs, whatever you want to call them, is an RGB block. And when you turn on the power switch, it sets the color of the RGB block from 0 to 1. So you're not going to see any noticeable difference here, just that the color block is carrying a value of 1 when the system is on, and 0 when it's off. You can actually see there's a bit of logic there with a sensor, and it's all connected from this RGB block that goes all the way to the middle of the hot dog. So it cooks from the outside towards the middle. And we can just go ahead and show you that by taking this spare hot dog, putting it on any of these pegs, and turning on this incomplete system. It's going to cook from both ends. So pretty standard stuff when it comes to using the RGB block and gradients or like transitioning from one color to another. But let's show you how to do that in a little bit more detail. So the sensor that's inside the hot dog has to see through the hot dog. And that's when we're using the smart sensor over here. It can see through walls if you tell it to. So right now it's in color mode, and depending on a number that you input into the smart sensor, it will see ahead that many blocks. So right now it's looking at the white block that's right in front of it, but if you hit 1, it's going to go through one block to then start seeing the black block in front of it. 2 blocks ahead is the red block, 3 blocks ahead is the green block, 4 blocks ahead is the blue block, and 5 blocks ahead is just past the blue block, which is seeing all the way over to the brown wall over there. As a matter of fact, we can probably just cut a hole in the wall here, and now it's not seeing anything. It's black. The blackest black that could ever black. But of course, we can just dynamically adjust that sort of like ghost range. You know, how far it'll see through a wall. So really, I just set that number to be just enough to see through the edge of the hot dog, and then through the metal peg, and then through the wood block, so that it looks at this RGB block that's in the wall when you turn the system on. So really, the sensor's just seeing a 0 or a 1 on each of these spots. Just like right here, there's a little mock-up of the inside of the wall. We just have a little 0 or 1, and things are turning on 0 or 1. Now what I have over here is a multiplication block. This is multiplying 0 or 1 by 0.01, a very small number, and that 0.01 is being fed into a counter block. So really, we're just going to be counting from 0 all the way to 1, but in very small amounts. It doesn't matter that we go over, but you'll see that in a little bit. So this number is going to be between 0 and 1, and it's going to be counting up in very small amounts. All of that is going to be in this multiply over here, and the values that we're multiplying are all negative numbers. This is negative 120, negative 60, negative 50 for red, green, and blue. And we actually have these values going into a max function along with the multiplied values. So when the system is at 0, the maximum number for each of these numbers is going to be 0 and not these negative numbers. 0 is a higher number than these negative numbers. When the system is at 1 times negative 120, then the number is going to be negative 120. So there's no difference between the value of the multiplier or the value that's stored over here. There is no max value. But that's what stops the system from going beyond 1 times. Even if this system keeps on counting up beyond 1 times, like 1.5, 1.6, 2 times, it doesn't really matter because the max value will just be exactly these values at 1 times. Because 2 times negative 120 is negative 240. So if you're comparing negative 240 and negative 120, the max is negative 120. So we're never going to go below these values with this max function. So really, these max values are just going to start at 0 and then count down until it reaches these values. And they're all going to reach exactly these values at the exact same time, proportionally from when they started at 0. So what am I doing with these max values? Well, I'm sticking them into addition blocks. We actually have another set of counter blocks right here with the value 240, 120, and 80, and that is the raw hot dog color. Reddish, pinkish, orange, whatever you want to call it, hot dog color. So you might be able to tell what's going on is that these are the differences to reach the second color, the final color. So 240 minus 120 is 120. 120 minus 60 is 60. 80 minus 50 is 30. So the final color is actually 120, 60, and 30 for RGB. And we can just go ahead and show you that when we flick this counter to be 1 times, we're sending in 1 times these values to be added together with these values. So with those values combined, the resulting color is the cooked color. So let's go ahead and reset that real quick. to the raw color. So let's show you this thing in action. Remember, it's going to be counting up in very small increments very fast, but then it's not going to matter once we get past 1 times. Check it out. Just like that, the RGB blocks are transitioning quickly but smoothly from the uncooked color to the cooked color. We can just skip straight to 1 to instantly change from raw to cooked, but that's why we're counting up by 0.01. Every tick is to get that nice smooth transition. And you can see, even though we're at 2 times, 3 times, we're not getting any darker than this thanks to the max value here. So that's really all that there is to it, and I basically took all of this logic and sort of like compacted it into this kind of like module. That's what you see on the inside right here. We got the sensor looking outwards, the precise amount of blocks to be watching those RGB blocks inside of the cooker. Just weld them right on, they'll be watching that RGB block on the inside. To change this RGB block that's on the inside, it goes to the outside and everything all chained together up to the middle gives a nice smooth transition. There you go, just a quick little tutorial for anyone that's curious on how to make these sort of like color transition stuff. And you can do this with any colors that you want. First, you just got to get the RGB color that you actually want, and then you got to get the differences for those colors. So this plus this equals the new color. And with those differences, then you can multiply by any amount to speed up or slow down how fast you're going to be transitioning from one color to the other. And that's that. But yeah, I had some fun rebuilding this sort of thing in Scrap Mechanic. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. That's all that I got to share with you guys for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Ja,